she's wearing a day jacket, she won't come in, and she went that way. What? Doesn't she like us anymore?
From Truculent?
From Truculent, yeah.
It's probably Rusland, and Rusland is waiting for Mir.
Okay. Yeah. And was Patrick coming over? Did we stand
No, he said he's working the table.
Mark is working the table, so Patrick can be here.
I was just at the table. Patrick said he's working the table.
He doesn't want to come. Okay, fine. Well,
he doesn't really like us all that much.
That's true.
He also may not want to talk or anything. I don't know. Since he's not feeling too well.
He is fighting a bug that he was diagnosed with this morning.
Sinus infection.
Sinus infection. So he may not want to. He may want to conserve spoons for tonight.
Yeah.
Spoon.
Come on.
You know about spoon theory.
Begin.
Okay.
Camera's been rolling for like 5 minutes.
Rolling. Okay, since we're all...
you can edit.
Nope.
He's going to go...
We're doing this live! Sorry.
Very, very sparsely, but thank you, everybody. 10th Fleet Summit 2018. Since we rotate this, last year was at Baycon. This year we'll be up here. Next year we'll be back down. And we're thinking, since we have so many people here, possibly in 2 years' time having it at RadCon.
RadCon can be an option because Oricon's too late in the year.
Oricon is too late in the year. So, that being, like I said, thank you everybody for coming, those who are here. With Admiral Killian stepping down as of January 1st, I've taken over Fleet Command, having Commodore Senna and Commodore Harney representing the North and South. And is there anybody here who's willing to talk for Commodore Demke?
I will.
You will?
Yep. Mark said you were the designated talker.
Yeah, I'm the designated.
You're the designated talker, yes.
Get up there then.
Yeah, there's not enough chairs.
There's one more.
There's a chair right
Mark's
there.
there? He can
Let's
come.
go.
That way we have our Canadian representative.
You're a proxy.
You are the proxy, eh? Okay, so I want to open this up asking each area and also Admiral Garcia from View Ships. Thank you for coming here and making this his Admiralty event, and we can hear about that. Now we're going to start from the south and work our way up. And how has the Task Group 91.1 and VATRON 2 done this past year?
So, I mean, we've had a really good convention season as of last year. I'd have to go back and check my exact notes, but I think there was about 5 or 7 different separate events that various ships of the Battle Squadron plus the Southern California contingent of 911 ended up going to. So, in addition, we've seen a plateau of growth. However, the HMS Revenge, as well as Medusa and the other ships of the squadron and task group, did indeed perform admirably during the last year's Black Sphinx Cup. And the Revenge took the Talbot Fleet Cup yet again for the second year in a row. However, did not retain control of the Black Sphinx Cup, that in fact moved on to HMS Barbarossa out of New Orleans. So, but we're definitely looking forward to a repeat performance, as well as continuing to engage with all of our various local conventions. We do have the privilege of hosting WorldCon 2018 in San Jose this year in, I believe it's June? August. Thank you. So that will be one of the major focuses of the task group, is to make sure that our presence is felt there.
It is an Admiralty House event.
It is an Admiralty House event. I have heard from the First Lord of the Admiralty that he is sending the official TRMN booth. We actually do have space at WorldCon. We don't get any special tickets, so WorldCon ticket pricing being what it was, but there we do officially have space per WorldCon. So, since also you have Colonel Pateling, what about the Marine Regiment? You would be able to speak more about that right now.
Right, right. Well, in 2017, we saw the standing up of the Lynx Regiment as a locally controlled Marine regiment.
So 10th Fleet has our own commander, and also we have been given a provisional green light to start up a 2nd regiment if we have people who are tested up, willing to do it, and have open with the 2-hat rule and that. That's one reason I am up here this weekend. I want to talk to the Marines who are here and who will be joining us, and to get more, a 2nd regiment based up here so we can have more saturation. I believe other than 2nd Fleet with a lot of paper members, we have more Marine presence than any other fleet. So
More than 3rd Fleet, so.
we have more than 3rd Fleet. Turn it up. Very good. Would you like us to use? Oh, okay. Anything else from California, Southern California?
No, I think that's good for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commodore Sena.
So 2017 was a pretty busy year up here. Every year we have this convention, NorWescon, RadCon, OriCon, and then there's other cons up here that people get involved with, like Game Storm, which is next weekend. Black Rose does a lot of work at. And such. One of the things that's been happening up here is many members of Bedford on 96 have gotten on staff with Oregon Science Fiction Conventions Incorporated, which is who runs Game Storm and OriCon, and are now staff, some senior staff with OriCon. For instance, the green room staff at OriCon will be all TRMN members. There will be Andromeda, Truculent, Black Rose, and Helen all represented, as well as the Office of the First Space Lord represented on green room staff, because the SmackCon is part of green room staff again. And that's kind of given us an in to give us more input into what happens at the con. It doesn't hurt that 2 years ago we had David Weber as guest of honor, and last year Timothy Zahn. So, other than that, by my count, we have enough Marines just in the squadron to stand up that 2nd regiment. We just got to get people tested up.
I was going to say, because I know that Colonel Hatelling and I have talked many times that there are the numbers, but people are not tested up, and we have tried to talk to them personally to get them tested up, and we're not seeing that being done. And without that, the Commandant of the Marine Corps has, as I said, given us the provisional green light, but I am afraid if we don't strike, that might be taken away from us as we didn't do it.
So other things going on in the squadron is there is some prospective future change of commands in the squadron, not just what will happen tonight, but down in the 2nd Division, there's been talk about various chapter movements. There's even talk of possibly getting a chapter going down in Southern Oregon. We have a few members, and some of them are testing up. So,
which you and I have talked to those people personally down in Medford, correct?
Down in Medford, and Crystal's here from down there, from Medford area. And that brings up the other thing is 3 years ago, the Jackson County Library System, which is Medford area, started up their own one-day Comic Con, and it was this little thing. They had like 500 people come through. They were open 6 hours. And then the 2nd year, I went down and had a table, actually gave out information, and this year it's going to a 2-day event. It's at the end of April. It's free to attend. We won't have a table because that's money now, but at the same time, the library is reaching out to us, and their door counters counted 8,000 people through in one day last year, and we're going to 2 days this year.
But that's in April. What about overall, just the Bat Crew Ron and the other ships attached up here? How, over the last year, are they seeing stability? Because I heard that one of the ships, there was some issues there. Are we
Helen
stabilized?
Helen has some issues. Basically, I use the term ghost spacers, and every chapter has ghost spacers there, or sensor ghosts. They're people. They're a name on a list, and it's hard to, you can't get them involved. Helen has an unfortunately high percentage of that, but overall, I think the situation with Helen is under control. Black Rose is growing. Andromeda and Truculent are stable at least, and Camerling is kind of a shining light in the desert, as it were. One of the things I've noticed is that while there's cookies to stepping up your game and moving up in size, like Justicar is talking about doing, Camerling and Black Rose at least are like, we are going to stay what we are because this is who we are and we're proud of it. Is that fair, Ed?
Yes, it is.
Camerling's a very unique chapter. Black Rose is a very unique chapter.
I was about to say, last year we had a situation where we had enough people on Andromeda that we could have gone up to CLAC, and I put it to my crew, and they said, no, we want to stay a battle cruiser.
Well, and if you look at clubs, what is it said about the RMN? It is a battle cruiser navy. And I think what I'm seeing throughout the organization is if you started a LAF or a destroyer, there's this push to keep moving up the chain. If you start as a battle cruiser, that's where people want to be.
Well, something I'll speak to Captain McKinnon. You really can't force, if a chapter, if the members want to stay that way, you're there for the members. You know, like when I was captain of HMS Wolf and we had enough people, there was a big drive. No, we want to stay that. We have that identity, and if the crew does not want to do it, don't force them, because then you alienate people.
Now, the other chapter that's up here that really doesn't fit into anybody else's group is the Seljuk. You know, I mean, we have an SD up here. GAR doesn't have a lot of really active members, but I think that as the RHN stuff moves forward, that may change. And that's a chapter that I know that when it's available, they're going to change. And they're already in SD. What could they do? Well, they can go to, the goal is for them to become a Havenite ship.
But that's right now, we're kind of looking back at that. So that's a future thing, but that's still not.
Well, but that does speak
Right.
to their status.
Anything else for the Bat Crew on 96 and attached ships?
Just looking forward stuff.
Okay.
Victoria Station,
Yes.
we've formed, well, the formation of the station itself has been recent enough that we're still fleshing out staff. We've had some people moving around. There's a pending change of command aboard Callisto.
No, it's finalized.
Oh, it is finalized?
It is finalized.
Okay, last I heard it was almost there. And so Callisto and Roller have been fairly steady, basically stable. Justicar, we've grown significantly, steadily, but significantly. Our goal is to move to a CLAC, mainly to suit the geographic nature of our area.
Right.
Because we serve Vancouver Island, the nature of BC, and very much aside from the Lower Mainland, is city, town, pocket of civilization, drive, oh, another little pocket, oh, drive more, another little pocket. And so for us, the CLAC is almost ideal.
Okay. So with VCon that happened, which is your big event up there, correct?
Yep.
And I know Captain Gledhill, they just had an event, was it 2 weeks weeks ago, or?
We were, yes, it was 2 weeks ago, it was a library event, actually very similar to what you guys had, although the one in Nanaimo was much smaller.
Right.
Good attendance though.
Good attendance still.
We actually recruited, not this past one, but the one before, about 2 members straight. And then we've had a strong presence in cons throughout the year before was particularly good this year. Lantisy got canceled out from under us
Yes,
due to some conflicts. The Capital City Comic Con came on, Lantisy's going to run their games, some people butted heads, and then they had the other one a week after, so the place can only support one con.
So is next year, are they going to try to reconstitute, or is that's it?
It looks like they'll try and reconstitute, but we'll see how the dates play out. So otherwise, we're now planning one in Sydney, then we'll be back up in Nanaimo in the fall, and actually this summer we have one in Courtenay. For those unfamiliar with the geography, we're getting about a 3-hour
And
drive.
I noticed VCon's location got announced. Is there a plan to be at VCon?
Yes, usually we sort of work with whoever's area it's in tends to lead, just because of the geographic disparity that we deal with. So a given ship will generally be the lead, stuff up the table, make sure everything's sorted out, and that one's usually Callisto's. But the intent is VCon is still one of the main events for Big Station.
Excellent. So with that, since they've constituted as a station with kind of a roadmap for the future, how is everybody working with that?
With respect to the station itself, it's actually coming together fairly well.
Good.
We're a bit like the Manticore system. You've got Manticore and Sphinx, which would be, say, Callisto and Mueller on the mainland, and then we're kind of Griffin out on the island, just because of the logistics of it. So we'll do group orders from Busup,
Right.
Either for the mainland or for us, and then we'll try and everybody jumps in, because for us, shipping is the killer.
Yeah.
That is the one killer, and we try to, when possible, we'll source things if we can from the Canadian side.
I believe Captain McKinnon also helps with
Yep.
stuff with that.
Yeah, and some of the Vancouver
Yeah,
people
the
have,
Andromeda Mail Service.
Yeah.
yeah, and some of the Vancouver people have PO boxes anyway, just for their business. So
Right.
we make it happen. When you're ordering, when your order gets $100, $120, $150, then the 15 in shipping is no big thing.
So anything else you have from Victoria Station or your particular ship that you want us to know about?
Not in particular. We're looking at doing the CLAC fairly soon.
Good.
And like I say, we're getting the people tested up, and then we'll probably that'll probably be where we end up. Again, now we can, because we have actually a member in Tofino, we have one from Courtenay, and then a bunch of us are, myself included, are serving military, so we can end up who knows where. In fact, this is, I think, our XO's second con, because he's always been at sea for all the others.
Yes.
Well, and that's how Victoria Station lost William Underhill, was the needs of the service.
Yes, in fact, but it's also how I found people, because in my office one day at the fleet school, I have a Callisto hat on my desk, I forget why. And one of my hull techs comes in, as the deputy div commander, and says, "Why do you have a Manticore naval hat on your desk?" He's now shortly going to be our newest ensign.
Nice, very nice. That you laugh about that, but I've had 4 or 5 people in the last year that signed up because they were like, "That's an honor-verse hat." Yes, it is. Where did you get that? As a matter of fact, you got a bunch of. I believe there's like 4 or 5 new members in Nevada because of that. So just because of me wearing a Back Huron 96 hat.
So
I actually wore this on Halloween. We do in the Canadian military. We do Dress with a Difference Fridays. $2, and you can wear business casual, civic clothes. So on Halloween, of course, it was on a Wednesday or something. So I wore this. I don't pictures. Of course, I work in dockyard, so you can't take pictures. And had like my commander come through and the captain of a fleet maintenance facility, and like, "Oh, what's that?" Well, I just whipped up House of Steel. There it is, had it on my desk because I knew there'd be questions. And they're like, "Wow, that looks better than ours." Eventually, my fake rank will match my real one, but
anything else from Victoria
no,
Station?
that's it.
Okay. So since we have the Bureau of Ships here, And we have people, have ships from all the different areas, that Bedivere is looking to upgrade, Justicar is looking to upgrade, and as you said, Seljuk will be transferring. One thing that there has been confusion at local levels is the command review board. So I'd like to ask Admiral Garcia, could you kind of clarify how that's working so people aren't going, what is it?
Okay, so there was an advocacy order from last year, 171104, that clearly stated that moving forward, or actually after the first of this year, that anybody who is commissioning or upgrading or undergoing a change of command, basically a brevet to a command triad role, would have to stand before the newly formed command review board that was essentially, it's made up of boot ships and boot trained personnel. From a process standpoint, what it is we're looking at your graded exams to see how you're responding to the questions that were put to you when you took the graded rank exams, excuse me. So 001 through whatever the highest is, typically for a heavy cruiser above, it's going to be 0106. But for the smaller ships, it's going to be 0105, 0104, and so on and so forth. And for exos, it'll be less.
And the leadership and management exams, right?
And yeah, the leadership and management exams, 113, 115 as well. If everything looks on the up and up, and you have, in some cases, an endorsement from, say an admiral, fleet commander, chief of staff, fleet personnel, echelon commander, etc., then that's pretty much, I would say it's a positive endorsement. It'll go towards our considerations, and we're looking at the prospect of having you as a CO or XO or bosun. However, sometimes there's additional questions. We go into a deeper review. We have the way that the board is set up is that we have very specific voting criteria, usually approve questions, deny, and I think there's one other status. When we go into questions, then there's a pool of command questions that we'll take 3 random, and we'll send them over to you for just some additional information to find out, what makes you tick. Because sometimes, I'm sure when you guys were doing your rank exams, back in the olden days, that you weren't really thinking that these exams were going to be part of the command process. So it's not likely when you were answering them that you were doing it with a view towards they were going to get scrutinized later on down the line. So a lot of the answers tended to be single sentence, couple of words. Didn't really give us an insight into how you think. So that's why we came up with the additional set of questions too. Unfortunately, all of this bureaucracy has lengthened the time in terms of the turnaround from when you send in your form to when we actually issue a ship's directive that gives you the change that you want, especially for a change of command where you have somebody who is a spacer third class that's going to be an XO or even a CO. And we have a lot of questions about that person because there's been a spacer third class for X number, or perhaps even they just joined and they want to be a CO. We're going to be looking at that person a little more, not harder, but definitely with a little more care than, say, somebody who's been in the organization for many years and has a reputation and is a known quantity, especially if they come with an endorsement from the fleet commander, which has happened a couple of times already. Then that definitely goes towards, okay, the fleet commander's involved, chief of staff is involved, they're talking to them, these are people that are in positions of authority that we already trust, thereby, we understand that they, that they've looked into it and they know what's going on. So that helps in terms of our conversations and our deliberations. But right now, we've been kind of turning around, I want to say like 6 weeks, depending. And some of that is we'll ask for an exam and then we don't get it in a timely fashion. That's a big one. So if you're looking into upgrading and you want to speed it up a little bit, make sure you have your graded exams ready to go. And if you don't, some people don't. They don't have their graded exams. Boot Train never kept an archive. At least they are now. But back then they didn't. If you took your exams in say 2014, 2015, and you're like, I had a hard drive crash. I lost all my graded exams, all my certificates. I don't know. It's whatever's in Medusa. Whatever's in Medusa. then you'll get the questions. You'll get the 3 questions from the pool. That'll kind of like be your substitute in that case. So that does take some time as well.
So how do those of us who are in echelon command help the process move along?
Well, for those of you in echelon command, you should already be involved, theoretically, from the point that somebody says, I want to upgrade or I want to complete the ship, you should already be engaged in that. It should not be a surprise to echelon commanders that somebody is spinning up a chapter in their AO. However, if in the case that there's a surprise commission and you want to get involved, then you would send an email with the information that you think would be most helpful, like perhaps if there's a Spacer 3rd class that wishes to be the XO, then perhaps I know this person from such and such, and they do have a history of command in this, perhaps another group, or perhaps in the military, or perhaps
so deep background information.
Correct. Something that's going to inform and bring information to consideration to the board.
And is there anything that you as Bureau of Ships would like to impart to 10th Fleet or just other people, things that are going on right now?
Outside of the command review board, or
Yes,
specifically with the command?
outside of the command review.
Yeah, absolutely. Although it seems like most of my focus has been the command review board, there's a ton of other stuff that's going on. We have been perpetually working on the commanding officer's manual, and we're back in edits on that thanks to the AOs that came out yesterday. So every time there's a new AO, yeah, I'm talking to you, Martin. Every time there's a new AO, we got to go back to the drawing board on the commanding officer's manual. So there's that. But it is coming. We're probably just going to make it a living document on the wiki and then just call it square once we do that. We are in the process of we're taking applications for a Deputy 3rd Space Lord for the Grayson Space Navy under the new parity advisory for the the other naval branches like the Graysons and the Havenites and the Andromanes. Once a Navy reaches, I think it's between 10 and 12%, we will basically hire or open up a vacancy for a Deputy 3rd that's going to be specific to that Navy. Right now, all of the Navies are covered under the Allied Shipbuilding Director. However, with the Graysons being, I believe, at 390, I think the last time I looked it was 398 or 397 members, as long as they're above 12% parity with the Royal Manticoran Navy, not all of TRMN, I meant the Royal Manticoran Navy, which is at 3,300?
Something like that.
Yeah, 3,300. So, and what did we say was 12% was 360?
Yeah, we said
12% of 300 would be 360. So if they're 3,300, that's 396. That's
So they're above.
So groups should be targeting 400 members.
Yeah, somewhere around there to get a Deputy 3rd, and then they would handle all of the. Essentially, they would handle all of the commissions and upgrades and changes for that particular Navy with my signature below it is bi-direction, because according to the mandate, I have to be the final authority on all of that. But the deputies would be acting on my behalf for those specific navies. So it would be like, it's basically giving each Navy their own boost ships, but under the boost ships umbrella, the 3rd Space Lord's umbrella, so that way it's still above board, it's still following the procedure.
Well, and that's how you train. It's got all the different categories.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're trying our best to give each naval element their own say, their own way of doing things in terms of, obviously under the Admiralty orders, which is weird that a foreign Navy would follow a Manticoran Admiralty order, but that's neither here nor there. The fact is that we do have to follow procedure, and therein lies the crux of that. So that's the deputy part. We're also still hiring enlisteds for our records department, our administration side of the bureau. We're not offering a lot of commissions or brevets to officer because I have a different view on how things work in in at least a bureau, that we should have more enlisted members in a bureau than we do officers. Because to me, I feel that enlisted members are the backbone of the Navy. They're the ones that get all the work done. They're the ones that do, that make sure that we, you know, as officers, especially as flag officers, have jobs to do, that our responsibility in leadership roles are to them and not necessarily to making sure that we have more stripes on our braid, or that we have more ribbons on our chest, or that we have more of this, you know, whatever this is. And that doesn't matter, at least in terms of what I do in Booth Ships. Booth Ships is here to serve you. So, well, you know, within the regulations at least. So that's essentially what we're up to and what we've been up to. And this is something that we took from John Roberts. He's the one that set that vision when he was the one-man show for so many years. And we've just continued that mission in Booth Ships under me, I guess. So that's in a nutshell what we've been doing.
I can think of two other things in your department that, your bureau, that people might be curious about, and that's unconquered and list of honor.
Right. Well, list of honor is ongoing right now. We changed it up this year. We usually do the nomination periods in January to March, or January to the end of February, and we announce it in March. This year, though, because it's the final MantaCon in Minneapolis, we pushed the nominating period out. We started on the 15th of this month. It's still March, right?
Yes.
Okay, the 15th of this month. And we're going to the end of April with an announcement at MantaCon. So we're going to present the list of honor during the award ceremony at MantaCon this year. Unconquered is going to be also pushed because SphinxCon is in November this year. What, first week in November?
First week in November.
First week in November in Atlanta. So we're going to push Unconquered's nominating period out a little bit further. So it'll start, instead of it starting in middle of July, we'll start in the middle of August, and that'll run to the end of September. So we'll have all of October to deliberate and make our class selections for Unconquered. Does anybody here know what it means to be on Unconquered or on the list of honor? Does anybody not know what that means?
Okay.
All right, so which one should I start with first, list of honor or Unconquered?
List of honor, because it's first.
List of honor is for Booth Ships, at least. I'm not going to talk about the individual list of honor. The ship list of honor that's chosen by the Bureau of Ships, it's one ship per year that receives that honor, and they exemplify as a crew the ideals of service to community, service to others, service above self, in every way, shape, and form. Not just, you know, fortunately what we do get is, like there were a few arguments that were in 2nd and 6th about Black Sphinx and, you know, winning the fleet, the efficiency, or yeah, the excellence award is, I mean, that's great. And if the challenges were community services oriented, I feel like that's excellent and you should be doing that. But this is, list of honor is about the whole year. It's not about just the challenge periods. It's not just about those, 100 days or so, right, of challenge that happen 3 times during the year. It's from January 1st to December 31st, and what have you done within that slice of time that puts you above every other chapter in TRMN. And we unfortunately have to be the arbiters of that to determine, you know, what's what. Unconquered is kind of like list of honor, but it's on the individual. That an individual has served so grand in the traditions of the books and traditions of Honor Harrington that they are named to the oldest surviving hyper-capable ship, that's the Unconquered. The Grayson's equivalent is the Protector Zone, which just started last year. And that's essentially, you get to wear a horseshoe, like a little horseshoe tab that goes over your, yeah, there you go. Little horseshoe tab that goes over your, oh, right. Sorry. Little horseshoe tab that goes over your thing, and then, or your,
show it off?
Climate patch. Yeah. There you go. This was not my idea. But nominated by somebody else, obviously. Thanks. And then once you're on, you're on. You're on for life. That's a lifetime berth.
Michael tried to take himself off the list.
I took myself off the list.
Somebody
and
put
then,
him back on.
Yeah.
Now-
Somebody who outranks me put me back on.
The protector zone you don't do. Or do.
We did, so protector zone, I gotta stand up here for a second, my ass is getting flat. We did protector zone, sorry. We did protector zone with the Graysons last year to give them a push because we had all this experience doing Unconquered. And we wanted to give them a leg up by including them in the Unconquered. So they were part of the Unconquered discussions from end to end to give them an idea of how to approach Protector Zone. And then when they did Protector Zone separate from Unconquered, they took whatever structure they felt was appropriate and they discarded whatever they didn't, and then they executed on their own. So yeah, we were involved with Protector Zone only in giving them the information and the guidance, but we didn't help them make selections. They did that. They did that all.
To me, the big difference between Protector Zone and Unconquered is for RMN.
Right. and-
Unconquered, I wouldn't be eligible for because I'm not RMN. Protector Zone, it's more.
It's the whole.
It's
all the
contributions
TRMN,
to GSN,
but you can be a member of any branch.
which goes back to the books and the Protector Zone being the people that honor took from Cerberus and
Sure. But these are both very high honors. It's the highest honor that really we can give besides the PMV, I believe, right?
And the PMV has a very specific criteria.
Yeah, it does.
well, so it's this guy.
But think of list of honor as being something about how
honor
you did
society.
in a particular. Yeah, it's an honor society about how you did in a particular calendar year. Unconquered's about your career. So if you have multiple years of service to the organization and somebody feels that you have delivered service above and beyond countless times over and over and over and over again, then you may have somebody nominate you without your knowledge, which, is surprise how we do things in this organization. We don't really communicate on that sort of thing, but
That's why we're having this.
yeah, we want to make sure that, you can decline. It's going to make us look bad because we don't tell you until the award ceremony. You can decline the honor if you don't want, before the nominating period, if you want to let us know that you want no part of Unconquered, then that's fine.
You tried that. How'd that work?
Damn, Skippy.
I got outvoted.
You big bust.
Yeah, that was again, thanks, Martin. So that's essentially what List of Honor. Now there's a List of Honor. You can also get a List of Honor if you are a ship that appears in a book, specifically that's without question that is your ship. So I believe Lodestone, right? That's how they got in. Lodestone showed up in one of the double-digit books, right?
Right.
Yeah.
With and they named the commander of the ship as the actual commander of Lodestone, who is no longer commander of Lodestone, right?
Yeah. I don't think Lodestone's a chapter right now.
No, they upgraded.
They upgraded.
Yeah.
So they lost their gold braid.
Their rope.
But now, as I remember from when I first joined List of Honor, if they had been Lodestone and wanted to go to another bigger class, they could have kept them.
Well, that complicates things a little bit. They could have gone to a Lodestone of a larger class, but it still would have had to have been approved by Brunei.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not quite as automatic as it is in the books. The thing about the canonical stuff and what we do in our fan club is that while we try to adhere, I think, to the tenets of canon that David Weber has written, I think it's important to understand that a lot of what David Weber wrote, he didn't write thinking, wow, this will make a good fan club someday. He wrote it because he wanted to tell a story, and then those of us that are fans decided to form a fan club based in that. But there are a lot of things that work great in the books for the sake of the story that aren't necessarily practical when you form an organization of actual people surrounding it. So we do make some adjustments and edits to obey like trademark and copyright law, to like I said, the practicality of command sometimes doesn't afford itself to strict adherence to the canon in the book, so we do make some adjustments, and that's why we have some of those conflicts that you guys have told me for years now, about, well, it happens this way in the books. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know it does happen that way in the books, but sometimes it doesn't work out so great in reality, in the actual practical execution. So that's why we have advocacy orders that will curtail some of those things or edit some of those things, because you have to think about it in terms of what's great for the fan club versus, you know, the almost religious and sacrosanct adherence to the book canon that might get us into trouble later on.
Heresy! There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit, yeah, I mean, it is a bit, you know, faith and all that, but yeah.
So I've got questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So a few years ago,
I feel like I'm standing before the board.
we were told there aren't any Nike names available. There aren't very few Roland names available.
Yeah.
Because David said, leave some of these classes alone so I can write books. Has that changed?
No.
Okay. So very few Nikes and Rolands available, unfortunately.
Correct. Yeah, we only have. Give me a second, I can tell you. We don't have. I mean, it's because they're so damn popular. You know, there's certain classes of ship that everybody wants to have the hero ship, right? And Nike class in particular. I mean, Honor commanded HMS Nike, which is not available.
But that was a Reliant.
It was a Reliant.
BC 413 is a Reliant and became HMS Hancock Station when recommissioned, so the name Nike was available for the class name for Nike BC 562. Yeah, we can't do Nike, we can't do Fearless, we can't do Warlock.
No, we can't do Warlock. Who would want to do Warlock?
Warlock made itself. It may have basically sacrificed itself, but it made lists of honor in the book.
So I can't tell you because I'm on 1XRTT.
Yeah, this part
we
of
must
the
be
hotel.
we must be in an RF hole or something like that.
Yeah, the in here and the dealer's room.
Back at the fan table had perfect coverage.
Yeah, exactly. So
Next time, let's do this at the fan table.
Is there anything else that you'd like as view ships to, while we're here, before I open up for questions? Because I have one other person I want to have talk, and then we can open up for.
No, I mean, view ships has been. I mean, we check our job vacancies first of all. I got to push that because if I don't, Chris will kill me. Push our job, check out our job vacancies and see if there's a fit there, especially if you have a penchant for yeoman type duties, because we definitely we need like 3 or 4 of them really for the amount of records and research stuff that we do in view ships. And if you have any interest at all in the history of the organization, the best way to do that is in the records department, because you'll get to see all the old ships and all the decommissions and all the commissions and the upgrades and who commanded what. And so for people like me, it's actually rather fascinating to see, way back in the history of in the annals of the 2007 and 2008 organization, who commanded what and who was, who was the Viscount of New Cornwall and all that stuff. So.
I want New Cornwall. They won't give it to me.
And there's some dark chapters of our organization that are also fascinating.
Pages.
Yeah,
So much chapters.
dark pages. We'll do that. Sure, dark pages.
Dark pages. Yeah.
And so it's just fascinating to me to read it. And I'm a historian by amateur status only, so it's something that interests me.
So real quick, we technically have this room till 1, but we were told we could have it 12 to 1, 1 to 2, and there wouldn't be anything after us. So if we run a little long, don't panic.
But that's pretty much it. I just want to say we have a lot of job vacancies, so please, feel free. Oh, we're also hiring a commanding officer for the admin command. So if you have an interest in, if you are an administration nut, then this is definitely the job for you, which is publishing, mentorship, development. Basically, it's all. How many here have taken their yeoman and Navy counselor and it's the whole shebang. It's the whole administration. All the ratings really wrapped up into one job. So if that at all interests you, then please come go see Jill, my chief of staff, and let her know.
Major Farley, front and center, please.
So
So I'd like you to speak, since Commodore Harney and I talked about the Marines, but you have more information as Marine from the regiment. So if you would please impart what's going on with the regiment.
Good afternoon, gentlemen and everybody. My name is Bill Farley. Those of you who are Marines fall among your Mardettes, but all the Mardettes of 10th Fleet also fall under Lynx Regiment. The nice thing about Lynx Regiment is we were the first regiment to be formed in the Marine Corps other than the holding chapter. So it's a first. A lot of people are doing things first. We're breaking new ground and growth issues and stuff like that. That being said, since it started in August, the growth of the Marine Corps in 10th Fleet is enough that we could probably field 2 more regiments. One of the handicaps that we're having, and that I'm sure every ship and every command is having, is people that are willing to test up and step up for positions. Within the regiment, we have a training position, we have an ops position, and those things. The Colonel Hatelli. I always mess up his last name. I just call him Mike, just because I deal with him all the time. But Mike is, at this point, because of some of the delays, he's willing to temporarily fill some of those staff positions with staff NCOs in the hopes that they'll step up to that position and then grow into the position so that we can commission them to the appropriate thing. Other elements within the regiment, we've got plans to do some operations. We have plans to come up or go south depending upon those things. Feel free to reach out to Mike, reach out to myself on Facebook. Pull me aside and I'll be happy to tell you my address, my phone number, and be willing to talk to you. Down south, we've managed, for example, when just a year ago at Baycon, there was only 1 battalion, 1 Mardette within the whole Marine Corps that was of a battalion strength. This year, after generating a regiment, in our regiment, we have 2 full battalions, plus multiple detachments that are, a few of them are growing at a nice slow pace, which is fine. Slow is better than nothing. A couple of them are a little bit faster, and like I said, the major hindrance in that growth is that people are having trouble with the education that we require for courses. If you have questions on that, again, call Mike, call myself. We're both in the training command and can help you with your testing. There's a few other people down south that I will be happy to direct you to.
And then also up here, we have Colonel Merrow of Camerley, correct?
That is correct.
That, if you're closer to him or other people, that. Now, one thing I'd like to say, if you've noticed over the last couple months when it comes to our marksmanship, the pistol, the rifle, there is the new AO that we're going to the Army way of doing it, which is basically just changing the way that we count things. It's expanded, so it's not that if it's not this list of things, it doesn't count. That's more of a flexible, but in 10th Fleet, the Marines are the ones administering this. Colonel Hatelli, and that at the first of the month, every month, we're putting out the latest list. So you don't have people going, hey, this happened a couple months ago. Get with your local Marines, because in Canada it talks about Saganami Island, the small arms instructors are Marines. So the Marines, so if you've got somebody on a ship that wants to go Marine, like, well, the Marines don't do anything. Yes, they do. They better be doing it.
The Marines, both up here and down south, in the last year when awards for marksmanship were coming out, every time that the awards for marksmanship came out, it seemed like if there were 10 people, 7 of them were Marines that were getting the marksmanship grade. So it's something that we are doing. Some of the other things that are happening in some of the spaces is some training missions that are, some of the units are doing that are military based. What I mean is if there's a museum or a speaker that's coming around, they're trying to get together and bring both the Navy side of the house, but the Marine side of the house, and anybody come out and go do something besides just doing a comm. So it's a little bit of diversity that we have.
Captain Clemens, wasn't there a trip to the Turner Joy, or there was supposed to be one last year? I believe so.
We did attempt to make that happen, and due to some shortages, we did not get enough personnel to do that. We have, however, had a couple of rather amazing and fun trips to the Naval Undersea Museum.
Are there any questions specifically for the Marine Corps? I know that you're asking questions,
Yes.
but at that time, I will step down after these questions.
Anybody for, thank you.
Okay, and if you find that you have a question later on today, I will be around and free to answer anything I can. And if I don't know anything, I'll tell you and I'll try to get the answer later.
Thank you. So I'm going to specifically ask and go down our captains. Captain McKinnon.
Yes.
As the senior division captain up here, do you have anything you'd like to say here at the summit or questions for those of us on the dais?
I can't think of any questions at this point that haven't been already answered, either here or in the past. The only thing I can think of is going forward, especially with me stepping out of the command position for as senior captain, is wanting to see the captains coordinate with each other more, because it's like, for instance, Andromeda did an outing to the Undersea Museum. Truculent did. It would have been, you know, we have discussed in the past the idea of combining and doing a joint, joint sessions. I would like to see more of that happening, going forward, especially if we can get visiting things that every so often a couple people from one ship visit another ship for a meeting or something. Because I'd really I would love to see going forward with both in my position as senior captain of the VAC crew Div 96-1 and the XO of VAC crew on 96. I'd like to see more interchange and more connectivity and more interfacing with with the groups, because we're a division, we're a squadron, we need to be working together.
Is it permitted to ask questions?
Yes.
Well, you're the division CO, yes?
Excuse me?
You're the division CO, yes?
Yes, I am.
So what, I guess my question is, if you're in command of this particular echelon group, have you been coordinating with Captain Clemens?
I had
captain?
started to at one point, and then I was indisposed for a good chunk of last year.
Okay.
And that kind of knocked the wind out of the sails on a lot of that.
And Captain Clemens is your XO?
Yes.
Thank you, Captain. Captain Clemens, you're up. So, since we had that, you will be taking division command after Captain McKinney. So if you will take it. Yeah, this is the fleet CO saying, are you willing to take that?
Sir, I grew up military. One does not ever turn it down.
So, then, as Captain McKinney said, with that going forward, will you be willing and able to try and coordinate that with the division and also with the rest of the squadron? For localized things, you would need a senior officer on station, and be able to coordinate and make sure that everybody gets to it. I know that you, as well as Robert here, when I was visiting, took me to the Air and Space Museum personally and made sure that I was included. And as a division CO, you can write it down. Yes.
Yes, sir. I will be looking forward to the fact that I will no longer be sending private messages requesting things to be forwarded to groups, but be able to coordinate things from a broader platform and make the invitation public without wondering whether I'm on toes. So I'm actually looking forward to those invitations going out more directly and quickly.
So, do you have any comments or statements or questions for those of us on the days?
No, sir.
Captain Luttrell.
So I have a statement and then a question.
Yes.
So the Seljuk is very good at troubleshooting and troublemaking. So the question is, do you need either of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Because as we've seen here, that with MARDETs, with the Marine Regiment, with the second Batron 2, 10th Fleet has been one of the fleets that if we're not doing it first, we're doing it more, and so people kind of look at us. Matter of fact, I have been contacted by a couple different fleet COs and also Space Wars that said, people look to 10th Fleet to see how they're doing things. So, like it or not, we are being an example.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. But also the way that we do things and troubleshoot. And I don't say trouble make. I always use the term stirring the soup. Well, when I was captain, I used to say stir the soup because if you don't stir the soup every now and then, it burns. And we don't want it to burn. So,
Can we eat the soup?
No, the soup will kill you.
there you go.
So I'm going to throw one out there for you, Gar. We have the division, and the division wants to play together, and the division should play together. Seljuk, being an SD, can't be part of the back crew div, can't be part of the back crew run. It's kind of out there. I'd like to see Seljuk involved with the division. And I look at it, I have a squadron of 4 battle cruisers, a Marine support cruiser, and wouldn't that be an obvious escort for a SD, especially a war prize antiquated SD? Play together, guys. That's all I'm asking.
Don't go too fast with this.
It's always that number one engine.
Yeah.
Anything else you have? Thank you. Captain, who also are personnel officer for 10th Fleet. So if you have questions about making sure awards are getting to the place or promotion or question on the promotion sheets, this is the gentleman I trust for that. Do you have any comments about the camera link and your stuff, especially with RadCon having come and your exposure, but also questions for those of us on the dais?
Not any questions for those up there, but I do have some things I'm working on. My ship now has a few spacers in and around Spokane, just enough for me, if I can get them trained up, to spin off a LAC. If any of your other ships have spacers in the area and would be interested in creating a Spokane-based chapter, please contact me. I know that there's one ship around that has a spacer in the Spokane area that has specifically said, thank you, no thank you. That's fine. If they're not interested in that, they're extremely happy on the ship that they're in, great. If they're looking to be a little bit more based on Spokane chapter, then I would like to talk to them and see about getting a chapter spun up in Spokane itself.
Also, as I have told you and other people, that the 8th Fleet CO, Admiral Roberts, has contacted me specifically. There are some people in Missoula, Montana, which they might want to spin up a ship. They're quite a ways away from anybody else in 8th Fleet, so they've asked us with the Camerling and also back crew on 96, if they have questions, could we help and assist them? So that'll be 8th Fleet and 10th Fleet working together.
No, and Callisto has a member we all know and love who's in Idaho. And Black Rose has 2 members in Walla Walla. strangely enough. So, yeah,
And I've got one member in Saginaw, Texas.
that's true.
Oh, we've
She's
got-
up for seniorship.
Well, there's a couple from the UK on HMS Revenge as well. So
Yeah.
we are.
It's a little
we are
far from Missoula, though.
Yeah, well,
Tiny bit. It's like the commute's that the killer.
Yeah.
A commute to killer. Yeah.
But there are those people. Any other?
That's it for my questioning right now.
Thank you very
So,
much.
yeah.
Now, Chief, since I believe you are going to be taking a position here sometime soon, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there anything you'd
God
like to
help me for my sins.
Yes.
Aside from that, at the moment, I'm too much makey learn to be saying anything that would sound intelligent.
Okay, very.
He will take all the advice and help he can get from on high. I know that personally.
Chris, is there anything you'd like from Black Rose since Captain Imblau is not here?
Helen now.
Oh, you're Helen now. Well, that is you're in that area, so I'm still going to throw it to you. Don't think you're getting out of it that easy.
Well, recently transferred over to the Helen, and the two of the three most active members of the ship are right here in the room, Amy and I. But the only other active member is the captain. So trying to find new members, find new ways to.
Is there anything that you can do at thru on the fleet level?
We're discussing some ideas maybe to get two people from the Black Rose to come over and to get some more energy, more officer positions, capabilities. Looking at, well, we've been failing to get our shore leaves, enough people interested in attending, so looking at trying to get one scheduled at a local library and to get more membership that way. We did get a new member this month down in Medford. So that. Yeah, gonna get him to Oricon.
Also the XO of HMS Artemis actually lives north of Everett. He works at the VA hospital here. Christopher Eason, who hopefully will be coming tomorrow night. He and his wife have a 6-month-old, so
There is a member of, I believe it's Medusa, living in Portland too. AJ.
Oh, and that's Revenge.
Revenge.
Yeah, it's Revenge.
He
Okay.
lives in
Teagard.
Tiger Teagard. You sound like a foreigner. I will say
from the California Republic.
you mentioned the Turjoy, which is up
Yes.
here. Another opportunity down in back through Div 96-2 area, specifically Portland, is the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry has the USS Blueback. They do tours and they do other things for organized groups, and that might be a joint operation idea in the future as well.
And in 2016, we had one of the Black Rose shore leaves where we went to the museum and toured the submarine.
I know that here in Seattle at Mohai Museum of History and Industry, around that is the Wooden Ships Museum right there too. So Mohai is a wonderful museum to go to, but having that, basically walk around it is another nice place to go.
The armory that it's now in is just a gorgeous building.
Yes. So.
Black Rose, I believe, still participates in a parade over in Astoria each year. So marching the parade in uniform with the banner out in front. They keep trying to do large events like that. They were I think they went to a UFO gathering at one point.
Right.
So
Okay.
more for recruitment and doing things shortly and we.
Excellent. So I'm going to open it up to anybody else here on the dais that has questions before I stand up as fleet commander and say what I want to say. So.
Well, just kind of a current status update down in Northern California. I know every month HMS Medusa has their monthly conference call on first Monday. And so additionally, we've been trying now to have a quarterly conference call at a squadron level to do some activity planning. I have been advertising it on the main 10th Fleet page, anyone and everyone is welcome to attend. We've had several hop on the call from up here, which we love to have visitors and any input, because in the end of the day, we're all one big fleet.
Yes.
We're one big fan club, and the lessons you learn are ones that we can take and implement in our own local chapters, and the lessons we learn are something we can share with everyone else. So.
And we try with Medusa and the back run down there, as well as fleet level. The program we're using is actually a video chat, and where you don't have to call, because for our Canadians trying to use a United States number and you get the long distance, we're actually using the Join Me app. So as long as you can log in on a broadband, you can either listen in, you can call in, use the app there, but also see people back and forth. And at least for our business, we can throw up a shared screen. It's like, okay, this is what we're talking about, so everybody's seeing the relevant information. Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So that's it.
So I'm going to go look at my other hat here. The Republic of Haven Navy has some guidelines, some goals we're shooting for. We're at 42 members. We're shooting for, our first goal is at 100 members. And right now we can spin up LACs, but we can't spin up big ships, so hyper-capable ships. So the only caveat to that is if you want to be the CO of a Havenite LAC, you need to be wearing the green. I'm sure that won't be the rule going in the future, but that was what condition was thrown on it initially. We have one LAC right now. It's in Texas, the Jade Scorpion. So if you have people who want to spin up a LAC, they want to do something a little different, we will gladly support them doing that. We'll spin up the chapter. I'll tell the fleet CO, we have a group wants to spin up a Havenite LAC, we're doing this. He gets informed, and then once they're live, they report up to 10th Fleet. We now have the start of the Havenite Naval Academy, which is just a B-rank test initially, and that's Captain McKinnon. And beyond that, go out, have fun.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, I wanted to speak a little bit more broadly, because I'm going to sit up again because my ass keeps hurting. The thing about fan organizations that's big killer is inconsistency. And in hearing some of the comments from some of the captains, I think one of the fundamental things that you have to keep in mind is be consistent in your events. Even if you're the only one showing up, continue to show up. Don't think that, oh, I'm the only one here, oh, I'm just gonna go. Have fun. You're there by yourself, you know how to have fun with yourself cleanly. Take pictures of wherever you're at. Show, like if you're at a museum, take pictures if it's allowed, obviously, of the things that are there, and show them in the Facebook groups or the mailing list or whatever you use as a primary method of communication for your ships. Demonstrate this is what it's about. I think it would be a great outing. It would be great if next time I could get at least one other person to come with me. But keep it up. Don't ever stop. The moment that you stop, you introduce apathy. And apathy is the killer. The minute and that's probably why you have so many paper members, or as Dan said, sensor ghosts on your ship, because apathy grabs hold and it's like a cancer. It just spreads so quickly. Especially if it's somebody who is a former core member who invited several other people to come over and join the ship. The minute that they stop participating, they will stop participating as well. So it's important to understand the dynamics of your chapters in order to spur the success and spur that activity. And it's not a one and done. Being in command or being in a leadership role or even being a crew member, it's about maintenance of that, of that unit. So understanding that once you accept, and that's part of what we do on the CRB, is understanding, is the person who wants command of this vessel cognizant of the fact that they have to undertake this responsibility for a long period of time? Are they capable of maintaining that level of activity over a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or however long, until they finally burn out. Because we do have captains that, you know, don't necessarily go that very long not realizing what it is that they're getting themselves into, or perhaps not fully aware based on the effortless, the way that the previous CEO probably made it look like an effortless, you know, chore, that they were just so good at it that, oh, I could do that, and not realizing all the work that needed to go into it. So COs need to train up and train down. You need to make sure your XOs are ready to take over, and they are aware 100% without question, with full transparency of what you do on a daily basis as a CO in order to make your chapter tick. If you're not doing that, you're failing. Bosuns need to be on top of all of the enlisteds. I speak as a former bosun. They need to be on top of all the enlisteds, make sure that every single enlisted member who is up for promotion gets put before the CO. You need to make sure that the people that are ready to be tested or that should be testing in order to reach a higher rank should be testing, or encourage them to test. In my case, because I was, or still am a member of RTI, I could actually help them do the exams and grade them for them right then and there and do a quick turnaround. Our current bosun can do that as well. So that's something to look into. How can you serve your members? If you're not doing that, then is it any wonder that your chapter activities are falling off, or that the activity levels are falling so low? Are you doing everything you possibly can within your power to make that happen? And if you can't do that, then why are you in command? So think about that for a moment before blaming others for the shortcomings of the activity levels of your echelon or the activity levels of your chapter. And look inwardly and find out, are you doing absolutely everything you can? And if not, then yeah, I think it's time to step aside. I think you're harming the whole at that point. So please keep that in mind.
One of the things about leadership is, as he says, consistency. But another part of leadership is not being negative. So if all you're doing is you're sitting and you're bitching about higher ups, or you're bitching about this, or you're bitching about that.
North versus south.
North versus south, that was an issue for a while. Stop, because you can be a great leader on everything else, but that one thing, tear everything down, and it'll poison attitudes around you.
If you look at what's happened in a couple other instances in other fleets, it's almost taken 3 or 4 chapters down.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we have the CRB was an issue that just that spread and did that.
Almost took multiple chapters.
Do you have anything that you'd like to ask or say from Victoria Station?
No, pretty good.
Okay. Okay, my turn, right in the crosshairs of everybody else. So a few things I'd like to say is that if you notice that now with the fleet staff, the deputy fleet commander is up in Victoria Station. The chief of staff is Captain Imblau. There was a question, issue with a possible new ship, a rumored ship that nobody knew about in the Tri-Cities area. Captain Imblau, said, I will go look into it, which he did. He came over to RadCon to kind of sniff things out. If there's an issue that we at Fleet hear about, and you say, we need help or we want that, we're gonna send somebody or we're gonna look into it, because we've had questions in the past. Commander Monk and I go back with, questions about, is Fleet, seeing this or not? I'm trying very much with my staff, so if something, we try to get it before it might escalate or fester. Some of the recent AOs about awards, there's been questions about that with the awards office. So I have talked with the First Lord and the First Space Lord that the awards manual, the people who can give awards, that has not changed. It's a paperwork thing, so we're tracking. The next iteration of Medusa is going to automatically track your time and grade. Your classes will already be calculated, so the wonderful point spreadsheet and all that, much of that will be automated. But with the awards, since they count for that, need to be verified and they need to be accounted for. So, commanders, people who have awarding authority, make sure you send to the awards that they are then noted. The awards office may counsel you and say, hey, this is something more, or we have questions about this, but the awards office cannot override your personal awarding authority. Now, that being said, if somebody keeps awarding stuff way out, the awards office might send something to me. It's like, you might want to talk to your captain and make sure that they realize what that award is for. But still, when you are in the position of leadership and all that, you are given a trust as a leader that you are looking out for your members and you're looking out for the goals of the organization as well as your local chapter. And there's a trust. Somebody who keeps violating that trust and all that, we're going to have a sit down and talk about that. Okay? So, since there has been in the past that Commodore Senna and I, we've tried fighting this north versus south, that has come up because we are an extremely geographically large fleet. From what's the northernmost chapter out there? Is it?
Callisto and Mueller share the same latitude pretty much.
But from Callisto all the way down to Bedivere in San Diego, that's a long hop.
Geographically, we cover even more territory than just that.
Oh, yes.
That's just where we have active chapters.
That's where we have active chapters, but Hawaii, Alaska, all that.
Arctic Circle.
Northwest Territory.
Yeah, Northwest Territory.
That goes all the way up to the Arctic Circle.
Mm-hmm. So we have that, so we need to keep in communication, as Captain McKinnon said, that captains really need to communicate with each other. There is a Facebook page for the 10th Fleet White Berets, so we can all talk. And we can all, hey, somebody has a question here, get a brain trust together that says, hey, I'm having this issue down here, does anybody have help? Somebody from another chapter, so we can communicate together. And if somebody has a question, we as a brain trust, even our fleet staff meetings, we try and come with a consensus, all that. I as fleet commander, I have the right to say things, however, I'm not going to personally, because I want to hear what my chief of staff, my deputy, and other staff members, including our Marine colonel, I want to get a consensus of them and be informed before I say, okay, this is what we're doing and why. So.
And the and why is important, I think.
Absolutely. How many people actually read the fireside chat with the first Space Lord? Okay. Those people who did not read it, I would encourage you to read it. We asked, out of all the fleets, I think we came with the most productive and constructive questions. Because one thing that we asked a lot was transparency, as you said. The whys. Why are we doing this? What are we doing? And we got some answers. Not necessarily the answers we wanted, but we got answers.
I think one of the things from looking at some of the other fleets fireside chat, anytime you have any of these ask me anything type of chats, keep it respectful. Keep it constructive. If you're attacking or disrespectful, it's going to go downhill and it won't be productive.
Also, it doesn't exactly reflect well on you and your ship.
No.
Or fleet.
Well, I went into our fireside chat after having read the dumpster fire of his home fleet's chat.
Of 8th fleets, yeah.
That was a dumpster fire.
Yes.
Nobody will deny that.
But we
Don't
came in very, questioning and with a lot of stuff. But I am very proud that the 10th Fleet, we were very respectful of people as individuals and asking pertinent questions, not like, well, what's the Swedish fish conversion for which 6th Fleet somebody in 6th Fleet actually did.
No, they asked what was the Havenite equivalent to Swedish fish. Just remember the Swedish fish pay scale was an April 1st joke post from Martin.
So,
Gummy freedom frogs.
I vote for caramellos.
there you go.
I kind of like that idea.
I mean, the Grace equivalent is root beer barrel candy. Yes, Captain Flynn.
Cinnamon Red Hots.
I do need to say, the payday that we do every December on the truculent, and the counting of tenths of fish with the master at arms over my shoulder is actually one of the morale things of our ship. So absolutely, it's an April Fool's Day, but we're a ridiculous space navy of fantasy. Remember, we start a space opera. Now, I was personally looking for the Haribo little hamburgers for Grayson, but I haven't been able to find them in a while.
They're gummy hamburgers.
These, yeah. No, I wouldn't do that to anybody. But I think having those things are morale things, and I think that we need to cherish them for their ridiculousness.
And that is, you know, knowing when to throw humor in there, that's a leadership skill, let's face it.
It is. So, as fleet commander, I stand here open for any question that anybody has.
It's time to take fire.
Fire, Will. Well, no, Will's out there. Anyway, so
Come on, one of you has to have a question.
if you don't, you know, I also, I have put in a list at the table. If anybody wants a half an hour to chat with me privately, and we'll keep everything just between us unless that, I have that list. Jerry has kept that for me. There are a few people on there. It will just be us unless you want somebody else, so I am free and open for that. Chris, you had a question?
My background's in the SCA.
Yes, as is mine.
And we're getting close to perennial changeover discussions and all that, and officer changeovers happen often because we have a 2-year term limit. Have term limits, I know there's the testing requirement, but have term limits for command triads and other higher up positions been something discussed or thought about that I know a lot of times it's hard to fill an office, and especially fill them with somebody who's really good.
The problem with that, there have been some discussions at various levels that I have been involved in. The problem is that you can get, if you're having term limits for people that, and you have people that want to step up, that's great. But if you have people that don't want and you're forcing it, and then you can have brain drain, and so you put somebody, it's like, hey, I have to step down, and the next person doesn't have the same drive. So instead of the term limits, that's why we have the hat limit. Okay. And so that's kind of our analogy to it. Yes, I was a greater officer of state, so I understand that, and I actually served a term and a half. So,
I could also address that. Of course, Chris and I have known each other a long time, but in real world militaries, you have, like in the U.S. Navy, you have a seashore rotation, and you have a time frame. And when I was in, a CO would be in 2 to 3 years. Well, Patrick here has just done 3.5 years as CO of Andromeda. And seriously, water? Mir's asking, people want water?
Yes, please.
Yeah, he might need a hand. He's only got 2 hands. Thank you, Dave. Resourceful captain, yes. So, term limits, hard term limits don't work in a fan club. Frankly, they don't work in the SCA. But being aware of where you are, how long you've been, or how long the people under you have been in their position is absolutely vital. You know, because some people can do 20 years in a job and do it wonderfully. Look at Amanda Kendall. She's a baroness and on chair for 23 years. Right. Some people, 2 years is an absolute limit, and as leaders, we have to be aware of that.
right. You have to be self-reflective.
Amen.
One thing, you really need to look, how am I doing? You know, where am I at? am I serving the people, or am I just kind of half-assing it?
Or
And-
serving yourself.
And if you're serving yourself, you're doing it for the wrong reason.
And if you're serving yourself, quite often you're not serving yourself, you just think you
Thank you very much.
are. Good plan, thank you.
And I do think as leaders, we do have a responsibility to build a culture that makes it okay for individuals to step aside, and that it's not seen as a character flaw or a failure of leadership to say, I'm done and I want to give someone else the opportunity.
Pride's a killer.
It can be.
I was about to say, when I was running the medical department for Saganami, I did that, I pretty much started that from ground zero, took it, ran it for 3 years, and then at 3 years I went, I'm really enjoying, I'm getting a kick out of this, but it's time to give somebody else a chance to have fun.
Right.
And honestly, you have to kind of look at things with 3 to 4 years, and then, yeah, you might be doing a good job, but it's time to give somebody else a chance to play.
If they want it.
Yeah.
Yes, Chief.
Did happen, just as on a different topic, I did meet earlier today with the head of con security.
Oh, yes.
So if we want to put together any, like a detail for security this weekend, we can arrange to have a meeting with him to touch base on security protocol and set up shifts and schedules. Yeah, so I had a head count as well, would be nice for him too.
Is it as drastic as a need that we had 2 years
I
ago?
don't believe it's as bad as we had 2 years ago. He didn't seem as like exasperated when I said that. It wasn't like a oh God, thank God thing.
Yes, because 2 years ago, between you and Captain Clemens and others who helped, Commander Monk, kind of saved their bacon, I believe.
Yes.
But, so, like I said, we can have if he can get a head count, and he'll have a meeting with us to
Excellent.
get us ahead of
Back on the time and position subject, I think really what it boils down to is you all have a crew. You're in a crew or you're in a command position. You have a bunch of people under you. This is one of the places where we can use the quote role-play billets to train people up, because in theory, even a tin can's got 7 department heads. Those department heads can be testing up and getting promoted and running their own little thing and learning. And you can use that to build your future leaders. And I think you should. And on ships like Black Rose and the SDs down south, the ships with really a lot of members, you use those department heads and use division officer billets, use whatever you can, because Black Rose has 40 people that are not in their MARDAT. Hey, 40 people, you should be able to find 8 that are willing to step up and do some little thing and learn.
How do you think he got made a captain?
Yeah.
That's what happened with Patrick.
It is, but I'm saying we all should be better about doing that.
Are there any more questions that you want to grill the Admiral? I've been dry rubbed today, so put me on the spit.
I've got a question for you.
Yes.
You're fleet CO now.
Correct.
3, 4, 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Driving a train.
Okay. Yeah. I love my trains. I love that. So here's a little something that I've told some people, but a little over a year and a half ago, I was offered a Deputy Space Lord position, and I turned it down, which had other Space Lords scratching their head wondering why. Here's why. Between myself, Admiral Garcia, Commodore Senna, from years ago, even Commodore Harney, my passion is us. 10th Fleet, West Coast, United States, Canada, okay? Even Hawaii and all that. This is where I want to make sure everybody succeeds. Going to a Space Lord position, I would be part of the greater thing, but I'd rather see us survive here, because if you're not surviving locally, what do you have for the larger group? And so I turned that down. So in 3 or 4 years, if I feel that either if there's somebody else who has the desire and the ability and that to take over, I will happily step aside and say, let somebody else. If it's a position where I'm wondering, I'm like, hey, I feel right now that things aren't going the way, I will stay, but I will bring on more people to help that until I feel that it's where it's at. I'm not going to, abandon 10th Fleet, Talbot Station, Victoria, until I feel, and I won't abandon it, I will step aside, but I'm going to make sure that it's safe first. That's my priority. So if I'm still here as Fleet Commander in a couple of years, it's because I want to make sure, and I think that I can do the job to keep that. Okay? I'm not going to say, hey, look, there's something else, I'm going to go. No. I'm going to look, how is 10th Fleet first? I've turned down jobs before, I will do it again. Because this is my home, this is my passion. You guys are my family, and I take it very seriously, to come up here, to go down to LA, to visit things and make sure that I'm seeing what's happening locally, and I'm talking to each individual person if I can. I mean, Commander Monk and I, a couple years ago, we didn't like each other. We really didn't.
I don't like anybody.
Right.
I hate all of y'all.
But the thing is, I wanted to reach out, and it's like, is there something that we can do to fix things? And so I was up at their room last night. We were drinking together. If there's somebody you're having a disagreement or all that, say, hey, let's go have a talk with, let's have a drink, let's do something together, because we're still part of the same group. In the SCA, we always call, it's the dream, the family, you are cousins that you haven't met yet. That's the way I see us too. And I wear these nice little rank pins. That and $5 gets me coffee at Starbucks. Doesn't do anything. If you see me and it's like, James, come here. I'm not going to sit there and go, you have to salute me. I remember a certain king of the West who worked at a car wash. And anytime somebody in the SCA came in, he expected them to bow. He would get off wearing all of his stuff, wear the crown, and expect people with lions to bow to him. No. This is not for self-aggrandizement. When we're in uniform and all that, and we're playing our Space Navy, sure, salute, take a salute, give a salute. But we're still part of the same family, right? Does everybody agree with that?
Amen.
Yes.
I'm going to flip it the other way. What do you see in your position as Admiral of 10th Fleet for the goal of 10th Fleet in 3 or 4 years?
My goal, since I've already been told by other fleet CEOs, that they kind of look and it's like, what's 10th Fleet doing now? If we're being scrutinized that way, I want to make sure that we're living up to that. I want to make sure that we're giving the best either example or we're trying honestly. If we make mistakes, we're human, but we're trying to make things better. And it's like, hey, we tried this, it doesn't work. We tried it. We made the mistakes. And be open about, be honest, it's like, hey, we screwed up. And if somebody says, hey, we got something else, don't be afraid to try something new. Somebody new comes in and they have a legitimate, hey, I think this. Unlike somebody coming in, well, I was in the military, I want to use my real marksmanship. No.
Yep.
Which comes up every 6 months, I believe. About that?
Oh,
7 or 8 months.
yeah, it's up to about 8 months, Dan. Yeah. We're getting better.
But as you said, Commodore Harney, something that new members and even old members are going to ask is why? And any of us here who's experienced it, don't be afraid to say this is why, or I don't know and I'll find out.
decision.
Yes.
Well, and if you're making a decision and you can't articulate why you're making that decision, you might want to consider thinking a little bit more about the decision and how to sell it. Because in the end equation,
Right.
we're all here to have fun, and none of us have the same definition of what fun is.
Right. So, hold on one second. So to yours, what do I see 10th Fleet? We're already an example. I'd like to try new things, you know, and it's like, hey, what if we read this something in the book? Maybe we can try this and see whether or not it's acceptable and have it be seen that we've done it and make it more accessible. Somebody says, hey, they tried that. As it is, we have enough people in the Marines who are fabricators and who are kind of itching to make armor, as you know, the full power armor suits, as well as weaponry that matches that, and they have the skills to do it. And we're trying to get permission, and that would be something that, look, 10th Fleet had the resources to do. We're willing to do it. Another thing, between the Randolph Canvas and the Artemis, I don't know if anybody's seen the pictures, they came up with a way to do a tree cat stand. That, you know, it is basically a hat stand, but they made the seats there, so if somebody has animals there, and they are sized for not only the old tree cats, but the griffins and the manticores, so you can have a central location that you have a tree cat perch. And they will be making the instructions on how they did it available for everybody. You saw Chief Newby's thing on how to do the the enlisted service dress jacket. You know, he did the, bit by bit, here's how to sew it, here's how to do it. As 10th Fleet, when we come up with something, does it work? Yes, we're going to release it for everybody else. And we, as 10th Fleet being an example, I want to keep that. I want to keep our reputation up as they're not afraid to try something, and if it works, they're going to share how to do it. Captain Clemens.
I'm wondering what thoughts are on the possibility of doing a Manticore convention on this coast. We keep tossing it around. Is that part of your 5-year hope?
That is, yes, we're still working on that because they have it kind of as a bit, well, look who drug in, about time.
Hey, Gunny.
So, yes, we are looking into it. With this being the last Manticon, one issue is that having a bid, some people in the higher ups want to have a RMN only convention. Others of us have thought about why can't we partner with another con and share space, and that way we wouldn't have to, be replicating that, and we would also be helping, as we have with here, with RadCon and Oricon, be able to put our programming with them and cooperate.
SteamCon.
And yes, and SteamCon. That, so it's their, the San Diego chapter has looked into it. However, the prices down in San Diego are absolutely atrocious.
The Bay Area chapters have looked into it, and the prices are absolutely atrocious.
Prices are atrocious.
And
I support Portland.
I've looked at up here in the squadron area, the most likely location we could pull off would be the Jansen Beach Red Lion in Portland. And there's a lot to be said for that, but that's because we have numerous members of OSFCI, and so we kind of have a in on information. Now, if it's to be an official TRMN con, there's 3 names you can choose from. One of them's in use, which is SphinxCon. MandyCon is about to go away. That name becomes available, and the 3rd name is GriffinCon. So if there's people out there that want to help maybe get this thing going, we're looking 2 years down the road at this point. Think about that and talk to me.
So one thing that one thing though that when I have talked to them in California especially, you talk to a hotel and the first thing they're going to ask you, what is your catering budget?
And that's not what they're asking.
Right, down there, and you know what our catering budget would be as far as RMN? And at that point, our discussions they're done.
That's why it won't be at a Hilton property for one.
Right.
Because Hilton wants a $10,000 catering budget minimum just to talk.
Just to talk.
That's low. So,
Yeah.
and the fact is that we have TRMN has a relationship with Hilton chain, so.
That's
Yeah.
not gonna change the
And that didn't change
requirements.
it.
That's why there's
That's
no
not, that's
hospitality
not,
suite here anymore.
I wasn't saying that to be like to get around the catering minimums.
No,
I was
that's-
saying that that's probably what's gonna win a bid is the fact that, we are pursuing a relationship with, or maintaining that relationship with the Hilton brand.
So
At this point, the information from Manacor Limited, because that's who you're dealing with, which is a subset of TRMN, really, is any hotel chain is on the table at this point because of the Hilton's change to how they're doing hospitality and catering.
So another thing, Captain Clemens, is that with people coming in on the West Coast, it limits our places that we can have as far as accessibility getting in. So trying to have somebody fly into, say, Fresno, California, or Yakima, how is that for planes? That's not acceptable. So we have Seattle, Portland, Bay Area, Sacramento, LA, San Diego, and Vancouver. Right. That has enough.
Actually, Vancouver is a no-go. And the reason Vancouver is a no-go is one of the requirements is to be able to fly David and Sharon Weber in. And to get them to VCon was 24 and a half hours of flights, and they said they would not do that again. Thus,
And they lost all
Vancouver-
of their luggage.
Yeah.
No, it was a wallet, but it's beside the point. That's not the issue.
They lost something.
24 and a half hours travel, and they're like, we can't do that. So Vancouver's out. One of the other things is they will not fly on a turboprop, and they will not fly on a small regional jet just because it's physically too hard on them. So that restricts where you could fly in. Eugene is possible, maybe.
That's a regional.
But it's a possibility because they have A320s and 737s flying. But,
But then it's only a 2-hour drive from Portland.
Right, and they drive longer to get to their initial airport. But, so there's a packet of information. I have it. If you're interested in working on a team, then, yeah.
So short
Talk
answer is
to me.
yes.
Yeah, so short answer, we are looking into it, we have looked into it, we have the possibility. So if you have something in your area that you want to, we'll work with you. And we'll try to put up, Fleet will work with you and try to put a bid in together. Because right now, trying to do something down in where I'm living, or, Commodore Harney and all that, just because.
So, on that vein, who bankrolls it?
That's one of the problems.
We have to, huh?
Yeah.
The bankrolling would be off of pre-registrations. It's doable. I actually have a budget of minimum costs on my computer. So.
Yeah.
But how can we do pre-reg if we don't even have a contract in place yet?
Your cart before the horse. Talk to me later.
Anyway, any other questions? Because we need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Walter, you're standing up. Do you have anything?
No, he's running away. No.
Okay. Anything else?
These chairs
Yeah, so I'm going to be at Seaports if anybody wants to join me.